Don't feed Nautilus. Nautilus is a melee range initiator with several forms of crowd control. His base movement speed is among the slowest in the league. Additionally, he has a very slow melee swing animation. His attack range is slightly longer than that of many other melee champions. Nautilus' passive is Staggering Blow. On his first normal melee attack against a target, he deals additional physical damage and briefly immobilizes them, preventing them from moving. Staggering Blow cannot be triggered on the same target again for several seconds. Cooldown reduction does not reduce this time. However, Nautilus can switch targets and apply the effect immediately without regard to the cooldown on previous targets. The bonus damage is not effective against towers. Staggering Blow will consume spell shields and the enemy with the shield will not be immobilized. However, they will still take the increased damage from the melee attack. Nautilus' Dredge Line is a wide skill shot that can latch onto enemy units or vertical terrain. If Dredge Line hits a unit, both he and the affected unit will be pulled towards each other, stopping once they meet near the middle. Additionally, the affected unit will take damage and be briefly stunned. If the unit he hits has a spell shield or Morgana's black shield, they will not be affected by Dredge Line. However, Nautilus will still pull himself halfway towards them. If the enemy unit is killed by Dredge Line, Nautilus will pull himself all the way to their location. If Dredge Line hits vertical terrain, including standing and destroyed structures, he will pull himself to the anchor's location. Dredge Line has a significantly shorter cooldown after being used if it lands on terrain. If he is near the edge and glances off terrain while traveling, he will stop short of his destination. Dredge Line does not latch onto player-made terrain, such as Anivius Crystallize, and the ability will pull himself over these obstacles if it successfully lands on a unit or terrain. Nautilus can cast other abilities while being pulled with Dredge Line. Nautilus' Titan's Wrath is an activated shield that absorbs incoming damage. The amount of damage this shield absorbs is increased based on his bonus health. While the shield persists, Nautilus will apply a strong but very brief damage over time effect on any unit he uses normal melee attacks against. This deals magic damage and is increased based on his ability power. Units in close proximity to the affected unit will also have the damage over time effect applied. The damage over time effect has no effect on towers, and attacks on a tower will not apply the effect to neighboring units. When activated, Titan's Wrath resets Nautilus' swing timer, allowing him to more quickly use a follow-up attack. A spell shield will block one application of the damage over time effect, but follow-up attacks during the same Titan's Wrath shield will apply the effect. Nautilus' Riptide fires small AoE explosions outwards in 3 rings. Enemies hit by these take magic damage and are briefly slowed. While the slow is relatively strong, affected enemies rapidly regenerate their movement speed over the duration. Enemies can be hit by multiple explosions, but they take significantly reduced damage from later explosions. Riptide is fired from the location where it is cast, meaning that they will not have a greater total range if Nautilus is moving. Nautilus' ultimate is Depth Charge, a targeted ability that chases a champion. While traveling towards a champion, enemy units take magic damage and are knocked up. Once the charge hits the target champion, a final explosion occurs and the target takes significant damage, is knocked up, and is briefly stunned. Depth Charge begins moving slowly, but rapidly accelerates towards its target. If a target moves a significant distance away on the map, such as with a teleport or recall that's finishing, the spell stops functioning. Depth Charge does not path around terrain. According to a developer, it is technically possible to outrun Depth Charge for 5 seconds and the spell will fizzle. We were not able to confirm this. When playing against Nautilus, there are some things to understand. Nautilus can be a strong ganker, and the width of his Dredge Line allows for relatively easy pickup of champions he has a clear shot on. Don't offer him an easy shot. You can use minions to block you, move in the small area between a tower and the terrain, or try to skirt around corners. All of these will greatly reduce the chance he can successfully land Dredge Line on you. His crowd control is not indefinite. Since his abilities have relatively long cooldowns, even with cooldown reduction, there are usually openings in his combo where you can walk away, provided you have abilities to more easily allow this. Try to wait until he has used Riptide, and only move after a half second once the waves are beyond where you'll be running. This will help you avoid taking multiple hits from the ability and allow for an easier escape. Nautilus is naturally very slow. While he can build to minimize this weakness, it may be in your interest to consider movement speed items that naturally fit into your build to maximize this weakness. Don't trade melee hits in a 1v1 with Nautilus unless you're sure you'll come out on top. Because of his Titan's Wrath shield, he will dish out significant damage while mitigating a good chunk of it at the start. If you don't manage to break the shield, he'll have a few seconds to extend the duration of the damage over time effect by slowing and disabling you with his other abilities. That said, if you've seen his Titan's Wrath expire recently, there is a relatively long cooldown before he can use it again, and that may be an ideal time to get some damage in. In teamfights, the main thing to watch out for is the initiate. His Dredge Line can very easily peel someone off or bring a key player closer to his team if given the opportunity. Once a full skirmish or teamfight has begun, try to identify the obvious depth charge target. He may try to go for either a very high priority target such as a carry, or a target in the rear that will cause other champions between him and them to be knocked up. Once you've figured out who that is, avoid the path the depth charge will follow. The shield from Titan's Wrath provides a constant, draining AoE on grouped up opponents. There are 3 ways to counter this. First, you can break his shield quickly, either through natural AoE damage or by focusing him down. Second, you can spread apart to avoid multiple people taking too much damage. And third, you can refuse to play on his terms, using his slow speed against him to stay away from his melee hits. When playing as Nautilus, there are a few key things to learn and get used to. First, and at a very basic level, look for opportunities to use melee attacks against multiple opponents during fights. If laning, his passive can be very helpful for last-hitting minions. In teamfights, the immobilize from it can be very helpful, and switching targets to apply it briefly to other targets can be a good idea. Dredge Line is a wide skill shot. This helps in clear spaces with the right angle as it can allow for easy pickups of enemy champions. However, it can be difficult to use in crowded areas as it can easily latch onto nearby units or terrain in its path. Look for opportunities to use Dredge Line on terrain, either to hook ahead of an enemy's path to ensure you're slow, or to escape during long chases. Structures are ideal grabbing points in many situations because they are unlikely to glance. Dredge Line, followed up with Staggering Blow and Riptide, allows for fairly potent crowd control, and the combo is fairly natural to use. Additionally, the use of Titan's Wrath during this can net you a good chunk of damage, especially against an opponent in a lane who must break the shield if they want to counter you with any damage. Depth Charge also makes a fantastic opener for this combo, making Dredge Line very easy to land. If you've got the survivability to outlast incoming damage, consider saving your Titan's Wrath shield until after any initial area damage in teamfights. This will ensure the shield isn't popped and you don't lose the AoE damage over time without them consciously focusing you. Thanks for watching this Don't Feed. Be sure to subscribe with the button on the upper right. Check out my previous movie in this series, Don't Feed Ziggs, by clicking the movie thumbnail on the right. I regularly stream League of Legends and other games right here on YouTube. Make sure you like me on my new Facebook page and follow me on Twitter. As always, check the movie information box below for general thoughts and series updates, and let your friends know about this series to help promote it in the League of Legends community. Also, make a post on the official League of Legends forum thread linked below if you really enjoy the series.